Hey everybody, Nathan Dunham, Alan Stockton. It's time now for Halftime Heroes, brought to you by Stockton & Stockton, attorneys at law, where we're located at right now. Alan, we're into week 4? 5? I don't remember when we were recording this.
I don't know when this is going to play.
It's week 4 or 5. How about that? And we have a very special guest. We've one of our favorite things to do is to go outside the box and do non-players.
Absolutely.
And you've hit the nail on the head this time.
Well, Ken Rumsey, I'll give him the credit for that. My longtime neighbor and friend, he sent me a message on Facebook, said, I love what you're doing with the Halftime Heroes, and Vaughn Watts would be the perfect person. She deserves it. She's number one. The reason I know how involved she's been is because when she was in high school, she was babysitting for me at the time and working for my dad at the drugstore. But anyway, she and Ann Alford ran the band back then, and she was in high school. She captained the color guard, and just was extremely active. Just really generated energy and everything back then, and it didn't stop when she left high school. Anybody that's ever been to any games at some point or another, unless you went to some isolated games, you've seen Vaughn there with a camera, always
That's
taking
right.
pictures, and she's just helped document the life of Rabun County football, and she's been faithful to it. And we're glad to have you here, Vaughn.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, it's long overdue. Like I say, Ken mentioned it last year, and I didn't get it to you last year, and I apologize.
That's mighty kind of Ken.
You have to understand how Alan operates.
Yes.
Or how we both operate. It's usually Thursday or Friday, and we're like, all right, here's a list of names.
Yeah.
Who can we get to first? And we just respect your time a little too much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vaughn, tell everybody when you were in high school and when you were in the band and everything.
Okay, I graduated in 81. Spent all my years. Back then, we marched in the 7th grade, 6th grade, 6th or 7th grade, I can't remember. We were at Tiger Elementary, and a parent would take us up to the Holt High School for band practice, and we would march then.
Now
This is right here in Clayton.
Yes, it was where the library is.
Yeah.
That old football field right there.
Yeah, she's talking about here in town.
Yes.
the
Oh,
old-
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So,
They would bring us up from Tiger, South Rabun, okay? Because that's where we went to school from 5th, 6th, and 7th grade there.
Right.
And then the 8th grade, we came up here, but they would bring us up so we could march in the band.
well, Vaughn, you marched on both fields,
I did.
and do you remember the very first game at Frank Snyder Stadium?
I do. That place was humongous.
Especially compared to what we had here in
That's
town.
exactly right.
Tell everybody kind of the difference in the two stadiums.
The biggest thing was, the old stadium was, the bleachers were wooden
And dangerous.
and dangerous. I remember as a kid.
And you'd have kids running under you.
Yes, I remember as a kid my daddy and mother taking us to ball games and being up there. And if you fell, he would reach down there and pull you up, But to go to the new high school, that's what we always called it, new high school.
It's still the new high school, isn't it?
I went in 8th grade to the new high school. That's the year we started.
So you got to see the best of both worlds, I guess you could say, with
did.
two different fields.
I did.
Do you remember the cable down there at the old field that was along the sidelines?
I do.
What was the cable?
There was a cable. They were like posts painted white, and there was a big piece of cable that went all the way
Wire
through
cable.
it, and that separated people from the stands from the sidelines. Not by much. I mean, you could almost reach across the cable and touch the players that were on the sidelines.
Really?
Yeah. But
I think one of my biggest memories of as a kid, before I ever was in the band, is they had a tunnel right through there, and the band always come through that tunnel. And do you remember that?
that was through the school. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And when they would come through there, it would echo and it was just unreal.
It's loud.
Very,
That's awesome.
very. You knew you were starting the football game. is
The
when
band
that
room was above the field house too, wasn't it?
happened. Best I can remember, it was.
A dangerous building too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the lawyer in you.
No, it was. I remember as a kid going up the steps to the field house, and it was like these narrow, very uneven concrete steps with no rails on the side and just a drop off on each side. But the band room was above that, wasn't it?
It was.
Who was your band director when you started?
Don Chain.
Okay, I don't remember him,
You don't remember him?
but after that,
Then we had, he was Mark somebody, I don't remember. And then after that we got Ann Alford.
and Ann was here for a long time.
Goodness, yeah. And she whooped us into shape. I'll never forget, she said one time that Orville Holmes, you remember Coach Holmes?
Oh yes,
Okay. Coach Holmes said, Alford, I believe your band kids are in better shape than my football players are, because she'd make us run. If we done something
You had
wrong,
to run for band practice?
We ran. We ran and did grass drills if we ever done something wrong. Oh, yeah.
well, we interviewed Ann, and she talked about the relationship she had with Coach Holmes and what a pleasant relationship it was. That they were, of course, you can't imagine either one of them being pleasant.
No.
I mean, they're just they're very forceful personalities,
Right.
but how well it worked together. And it's good to hear of a band and a team, football team, working together like that.
That was, he said that to her, because we've split many a times running, because we were very stubborn. We were going to run over her, and she won.
That doesn't surprise me even a little bit. And nowadays with Facebook, I think probably most everyone knows of your work on the sidelines, taking pictures during the game and of players. And I saw just a picture the other day, you taking a Darren Giles before the North Murray game with a microphone in his hand, getting ready to sideline report for us here on the live
Let
stream.
me tell you how that started.
Yes, that's what I want to hear.
Rita Gibson,
Uh-huh.
okay? When Eli and Charlie was playing, Rita came to me and she said, Eli and Charlie's senior year, I want you to photograph. She said, I will get you to the games, because they put together this album for Coach Shaw. It's basically the seniors give it to him, and I think maybe before it featured the seniors. And she said, I want some good photographs and I want you to do it. So that's where that started. And I think it was probably 2 years before they graduated, I was going and doing. Well, the year they graduated, I was at the football banquet. I thought I was through. You know, I
Season's over with.
yeah, and Eli and Charlie's graduated, so I'm through
Yeah.
walking these sidelines, taking all these pictures, okay? During the banquet that year, I went because Coach Shaw and Dawn had asked me to go. And he said in front of everybody, we appreciate Vaughn Watson, all her pictures she done and everything she's done. And he looked over at me and he said, you're with us. We're not letting you go. Not will you, face to face. It was in front of everybody. And that's where it's been.
But even before that, you were taking pictures.
Oh, yeah. Kent Ramey,
Yeah.
I followed Kent. We followed Kent the 3 years. See, that was winning seasons. I'll tell you another, when my daughter was in band, she was in marching band. So, of course, I was there. And we went through some pretty hard seasons of very few wins.
Yeah.
It was probably 2 years ago, Kelsey and Christy Dills and Allison Daniel and Jennifer Mitchell was at the ball game, and they come down to see me after the ball game. They said they wanted a picture taken. And it was funny. They said, we want it in front of the scoreboard. We never saw a winning scoreboard, And I mean, that was some hard times.
Sure.
Being in the band and, having to follow that. But we stuck with them, And
Would you have ever thought we would be where we're at now?
No, never thought. I couldn't understand. I always, going to these away games, you see all these big football players, and ours were so little, and I thought, I don't care how hard you work, you can't get our players to that point.
Right.
Well, I've eaten those words more than once
I think
because it's been unreal.
I think we all have. I mean, growing up, I'm sure you heard it too.
Heard it. I lived it. I mean,
Yes.
Well, but the goal was you make it to the playoffs, you have a good show, and then you go home.
yeah, you play the one playoff game and then it's over.
Correct.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
with the band back all those years of, if we won 3 games a season, we were thrilled.
Right.
And they would say, we're going to the playoffs, the first round of playoffs. And everybody would say, but we hadn't won but 3 or 4 games. Why do you go to the playoffs? We knew that was it
Right.
after that first round. And it's always just the last however many years that I've been on the sidelines again. It's just been like,
Bunch of
They're on-
overtime.
yes,
Bunch of overtime.
it's unreal.
So you go to the home and the away games?
I do.
I know you're over at North Murray in Chatsworth.
If I wished I had an album for you to see of Coach that I've made for Coach Shaw. Each album starts with the run through that the cheerleaders does.
Right.
It starts there, and normally there's 3 to 4 pages in between, and the end is the scoreboard, win or lose. And it's not just seniors. I try my best to get every player,
Right.
whether they're on the field or off the field, because I feel like, they're a team, and he needs that. Coach Shaw needs to be able to say, now, I do feature your seniors.
Sure.
Normally there's 2 larger pictures per page of the seniors. A few years ago, I got J-Bo to take the album, and the seniors signed it.
Oh, wow.
Signed their picture to him. I'm not sure if they've continued doing that or not, because this year I gave it to one of the senior moms. But that's just something that Dawn told me. He loves these albums.
That's awesome.
And he normally comes to me afterwards and says, and Dawn too, she'll say, we've spent nights looking at this album, because I don't feel like it would be complete if it didn't have every game in it. And that's why I've tried to do away also. Hadn't missed one in a while, and I don't know how long.
So you started with Charlie and Eli.
Eli.
Well, but you were doing it before then.
Yes.
But that's
Off
when
and
you
on.
kind of started full time.
Yes, that's when I started. It was started with these albums,
Right.
And like when my daughter was in band, I would do pictures, and back then was film, so you had to have everything printed. Same thing with Kent, everything was film, so you had to have it printed. And I would give these kids in the band pictures, and I had somebody, Susie Justice, just a few days come to me and she said, I wouldn't have any pictures of Austin playing ball if it hadn't been for you. Claudia Grant says the same thing. My pictures are from you,
Right.
And I've given pictures away because, a lot of parents couldn't take pictures. So that was the way the kids, especially the band kids when Kelsey was in band. And then it's just gone on. But the thing I do now is I put them on Facebook.
Right.
I think you used to photograph me and Rob when we
I
were playing.
did. I did. You're telling my age. I put them on Facebook, and the parents and the grandparents just absolutely love it.
Oh, I'm sure. So now, have you always just had a love for photography? Like, how did that very first picture you took of a football game?
I was in high school.
You were in high school.
And I was on the yearbook staff.
Oh, gotcha.
That's where I
So you
started
got
with
familiar
photography.
with the camera.
When I went to my first junior-senior prom as a freshman, you did the photographs. You had the thing set up. You had it all
At the
studio right here in
studio
town.
Mhm.
And that's where everybody went to get their prom pictures.
Really?
Yeah.
I went almost 2 years to North Georgia Tech
Right.
and took photography. That's before it was all film.
Right.
And I was fighting not to use film. I mean, not to go digital. I didn't want to go digital, but digital's the thing,
You didn't have a choice, did you?
I didn't. It was running out.
That's why.
So-
Well, that's just about all of our time. You have any more closing thoughts?
I can't think. Well, one thought, this Halftime Heroes is always brought to you by Stockton & Stockton.
It
We
is.
actually have Stockton and Stockton in here.
There he is, right
a
behind us.
portrait of my grandfather. So
VD making an appearance during the halftime
Absolutely.
show. That's the other Stockton.
I think this is the first. Well, it's the first video one we've done here in this
It
conference
is.
room.
We've done some audio ones here, but no one could see VD in that one.
Yeah.
And so,
Vaughn, we're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
It's overdue. It really is.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Everything
very
you
much.
do is very much appreciated and very much recognized.
Thank you.
100%. 100%. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Halftime Heroes. We've got the second half coming up in just a few minutes. Don't forget, Halftime Heroes brought to you by this
Stockton
guy,
and Stockton.
right
yes.
there. This guy
And that guy.
this guy.
Yeah.
Right there. Phone number?
706-782-6100.
You're so good at the phone number.
You want me to have one of those numbers like one call, that's all?
I wanted to flash across the bottom of the screen. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Second half coming up right now.